It finally happened. Christian Horner's fall from grace has officially shaken Red Bull to its core. But while everyone's focused on the obvious, there's something way more important happening behind the scenes. Quietly, but with precision, Helmut Marko is repositioning himself at the center of power. And trust me, this isn't just about replacing a team principal. It's about reshaping the entire Red Bull driver lineup, especially the future second seat next to Max Verstappen. Now, let's talk about Yuki Tsunoda. On the surface, yeah, his recent performances have been underwhelming. Ibiza, Monaco, Canada, Spain. He hasn't exactly delivered standout weekends. But what if the issue isn't just his performance? What if Marko never truly prioritized Tsunoda's place in the long term? Because when you look closely, there's something odd about how Marko treats Isaac Hadjar, also known in some circles as Ray R. Hadjar is still raw, sure, but that might be exactly what Marko wants. Every mistake he makes is seen as part of the learning process. After messing up in Monaco and calling himself an idiot on the radio, Hadjar was met with both criticism and praise from Marko, almost like a teacher shaping a student. Meanwhile, Tsunoda, no such patience. Every mistake is another strike, and it's becoming pretty clear. This might have all been part of the plan. Ask yourself this: was Tsunoda only promoted to buy Hadjar more time? A placeholder while Marko grooms someone more controllable? Because, unlike Tsunoda, who has a strong personality and backing from Honda, Hadjar doesn't have that same political support. And that's exactly the kind of environment Marko prefers to work with: total control. With Honda stepping away from Red Bull in the near future, that layer of protection around Tsunoda is vanishing fast. There's something strategic going on here. Red Bull doesn't just want talent, they want alignment. Hadjar isn't a threat to Verstappen, and that's key, because Red Bull isn't looking for a driver who will shake up the hierarchy. They want someone who can quietly collect points, work within the system, and most importantly, never disrupt Max's dominance. That's why names like Liam Lawson and even young Harvard Lindblad are starting to fade from the conversation. Too much personality, too much risk. Let me throw a question your way. Do you think Tsunoda still deserves a seat at Red Bull? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear what you think. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into F1's internal politics, subscribe to our channel and enable the notification bell. Your support helps us grow and hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we'll keep bringing you more stories that most people aren't even talking about. Now, with Red Bull's political chessboard reshuffling, the next move could shake the entire F1 grid, because rumors are swirling that Max Verstappen himself might be planning a move to Mercedes. At first glance, it might sound like just another silly season rumor. But when you dig deeper, things start lining up a little too perfectly. According to insiders, Ola Källenius, the CEO of Mercedes-Benz, has already given the green light to pursue Verstappen for 2026, and that's not something you do unless the wheels are already turning behind the scenes. In fact, some in the paddock believe there's already a preliminary agreement in place, a pre-contract. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Why would Mercedes risk letting this kind of news slip, especially with George Russell already signed through 2025? Wouldn't that just destabilize the team? Normally, yes. But this might be a calculated move. By making it known that Verstappen could take his seat, Russell is suddenly under pressure to prove he's worth keeping. That means every lap in 2025 becomes a make-or-break audition, not just for Mercedes, but for other top teams like Ferrari and Aston Martin. Think about it. With Verstappen possibly available, the entire driver market reshuffles. Russell has talent, no doubt, but what he hasn't proven yet is that he can consistently deliver under massive pressure. Mercedes knows that. So why not give him the biggest motivator possible? The looming presence of the most dominant driver of the modern era. Now let's flip it. Why would Verstappen even consider leaving Red Bull, the team that gave him everything? It's all about risk. The 2026 engine regulations are coming fast, and Red Bull is diving into uncharted waters with its new hybrid power unit in partnership with Ford. It's a bold move, but also a massive gamble. Christian Horner himself admitted it would be embarrassing if Red Bull's rookie engine outperformed Mercedes right out of the gate. That's how uncertain the future really is. And Verstappen, he doesn't want to wait around for a science experiment to either succeed or crash. He wants guarantees. He wants dominance. And the one team that has a history of delivering that consistency year after year is Mercedes. Even if they've stumbled recently, their structure, leadership, and technical backbone are still among the best in the sport. Verstappen knows that. So here's a quick question for you. Do you think Russell can survive with Verstappen breathing down his neck next year, or is it already a lost cause? Drop your opinion in the comments and let's get a real debate going. Also, if you're into this kind of F1 chess game, where every rumor hides a deeper strategy, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We're building a tight-knit F1 community here, and your support helps us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Next, we're going to take this Verstappen situation even further, because what if this whole performance clause everyone's been talking about is just a smoke bomb? So you've probably heard about the rumored performance clause in Max Verstappen's contract, the one that supposedly lets him walk away from Red Bull if they're not in the top 4 by the Hungarian Grand Prix. But here's the twist. What if that clause is just a distraction? A nice, clean explanation for the public, while the real exit plan is already in motion behind closed doors. Think about it. If Verstappen truly wanted out, would he wait for a mid-season results clause to activate? Or would he and his legal team already be working on other ways to make a clean break, quietly, safely, and with minimal damage to his brand? Because from what's being whispered in the paddock, that's exactly what's happening. Sources suggest that Verstappen's camp is exploring alternative legal avenues to exit Red Bull in 2026, even if the performance clause doesn't trigger. Why? Because this isn't about just one bad result or a fluke season. It's about long-term stability, or the lack of it. Red Bull has gone from the gold standard of consistency to a team under fire from multiple directions. Internal drama with Horner, a power struggle with Marco, and now a totally unproven engine project with Ford. Verstappen is watching all of that unfold, and he's no longer just thinking about 2025. He's planning for the next era of Formula One, and he knows that brand legacy, title counts, and long-term dominance are all on the line. He doesn't want to be stuck in a team that's building from scratch while Mercedes, Ferrari, or even McLaren are ready to pounce with fully formed 2026 projects. And here's another thing people often get wrong. Verstappen's exit wouldn't be about money. He's already one of the highest-paid athletes on the planet. This is about control, legacy, and avoiding unnecessary risks. If Red Bull's new engine flops, he's the one left holding the bag. If Mercedes offers him a path to a ready-to-win car backed by a $75 million salary and a no-drama environment, that's a hard deal to ignore. Let me ask you, do you think Verstappen is being smart planning his exit? Or do you think it's disloyal to leave the team that helped make him a champion? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and help us grow our F1 community. Your support gets us closer to our goal of 1,000 subscribers and keeps the conversation going with fans like you. Next up, we're going to switch gears a bit and dig into one of the most controversial moments of the season, Oscar Piastri's penalty at Silverstone. Was it fair, or was it another example of politics interfering with pure racing? When the FIA handed Oscar Piastri a 10-second penalty at the British Grand Prix, it seemed clear-cut on paper. The official reason? Erratic braking under the safety car. But as more data came out, that penalty started to look less like a rule being enforced and more like a convenient call influenced by paddock politics. Here's what we know. At the time of the penalty, Piastri was leading with confidence. He managed tire temperatures under the safety car like every driver does, Verstappen included. The claim was that he applied the brakes unpredictably. But telemetry revealed something different. Piastri was using exactly 60 psi of brake pressure at that moment, the same as he had been using consistently throughout previous laps. No spike, no sudden change. Even Jolyon Palmer, former driver and now a technical analyst, went on record saying there was nothing shocking about the braking, nothing excessive, nothing dangerous. In fact, that same brake input had been used just minutes earlier without any issue. So, what changed? Here's the twist. Max Verstappen complained about Piastri over the radio, right before passing him. That's when everything shifted. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, strongly suggested that Verstappen's complaint may have shaped the steward's perception. In other words, the punishment may have been driven not by the data, but by influence. And if that's true, then it raises a disturbing question. Is F1 becoming a sport where high-profile drivers can influence race control decisions? Let's go even deeper. Why didn't McLaren fight harder for Piastri after the penalty? Oscar himself asked over the radio if the team would consider giving him back the win since they all believed the punishment was unfair. But the team stayed silent. No team orders. No swap with Lando Norris. Just silence. So here's the uncomfortable question. Did McLaren choose to favor Norris, their golden boy, in that moment? It wouldn't be the first time a team prioritized one driver over another, but in this case it felt especially obvious, and fans noticed. Social media blew up with comparisons to other similar cases, like George Russell in Canada, who braked harder with just 30 psi and didn't get penalized. If the FIA is really going to start cracking down on 60 psi braking under a safety car, then let's be honest. Almost every driver on the grid should be getting penalized. That's how common that number is. Which brings us back to the bigger issue. Are penalties being applied based on data and fairness? Or are they now tools used to shape outcomes? Let me ask you this. Was Piastri treated unfairly at Silverstone, or was the penalty justified? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you're someone who loves going beyond the headlines and digging into the real story, make sure to subscribe and enable the notification bell. We're building something special here, and your voice helps us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers and stay ahead of the narrative. Up next, we're heading to Italy, or more specifically, into the heart of Maranello, because Ferrari just gave Lewis Hamilton one last shot at greatness. But it might already be too late. Ferrari has finally pulled the trigger on a major upgrade, an overhauled rear suspension system designed to correct months of instability in the SF25. But here's the reality. This might be Hamilton's last chance to believe in the Scuderia's project before 2026. Because if this update flops, the team has already made it clear. There's no Plan B. This is it for 2025. The update is set to debut at Mugello, and behind the scenes, it's not just an engineering decision, it's political. Internally, Hamilton has been calling for structural changes since March, warning that the car's platform simply wasn't working. He pointed directly at rear-end instability and inconsistent ride height as the key problems. But the team didn't listen, at least not right away. Now, with pressure mounting and results slipping, Ferrari is finally responding. And it's not just media chatter this time. Jacques Clear, Ferrari's performance engineer and someone who worked closely with Lewis during their Mercedes days, is reportedly pushing hard from within, urging the team to trust Hamilton's feedback. This is critical, because for most of the season, Ferrari's updates were nothing more than patchwork. Aero tweaks here, minor balance changes there. None of it addressed the root problem, the suspension and ride height setup that's forced the SF25 to run too high since Shanghai. That's right. Since April, Ferrari has known the car is running above optimal height to avoid another disqualification. but that's cost them grip, downforce, and overall stability. It took them 4 months to act, and now, everything rides on whether this new package delivers. But here's where it gets even more delicate. If the update doesn't work, if Hamilton still ends up stuck in the midfield, watching podiums disappear, how long until the cracks start to show? Hamilton didn't join Ferrari to be a development driver. He came to fight for wins. And if he's ignored again, it's only a matter of time before we start hearing rumors of frustration, or worse, an early exit. Here's something else fans aren't really talking about: this suspension update. It's Ferrari's last major upgrade for the year. If it fails, the SF25 will be shelved. That means all efforts will shift to the 2026 project, the so-called Car 678, which means 2025 could become a write-off. So here's the big question for you. Should Hamilton stick it out with Ferrari for one more year, even if 2025 starts to fall apart? Or should he look elsewhere if he wants that elusive 8th title? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you've been enjoying this breakdown, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel and enable the notification bell. Your support helps us reach 1,000 subscribers and keeps this F1 community growing strong, where we dig deeper, ask better questions, and never settle for surface-level analysis.